Yeah, these Heian-era sorcerers are a different breed. In the most recent chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen, we get an epic battle between Sukuna and Yorozu, two vicious fighters and users of insanely hacked powers and curse techniques. But Yorozu in particular, damn, we knew she was strong, but Gege did not have to make her look stronger than your favorite top tiers. Cause right now, Yorozu is going to kick somebody out of that top 5 position. And yes, that is how raw and phenomenal Yorozu is as a fighter. I hope this week's chapter turned a lot of heads because the sheer powerhouses both opponents are is just insane. But let's actually first take a look at Yorozu and her ancient power because she just might surprise you. Since Yorozu is a Heian-era sorcerer, she and others like her are very different in how they hone their Jujutsu craft. We can see Yorozu is very invested in her studies. Nothing weird about this at all, but seriously, 1,000 years ago, sorcerers took Jujutsu to the peak, and things like war, battle, exorcism, that was all as natural as breathing to them. And Yorozu was no exception. She is heavily invested in unlocking the true nature and the true power of her curse technique construction. This is the exact same curse technique as Mai Zenin, but this construction was very inefficient in its use of cursed energy compared to other curse techniques. That's actually something that makes sense, and it is plausible as a trade-off because construction would require the user to have some understanding of what they make. And since the potential of this curse technique is so incredibly high, creating special weapons or things that are big and complicated is going to take a substantial amount of cursed energy, likely more than the user has available. Mai Zenin's use of construction was also pretty taxing. Even for Mai to create one single bullet required tremendous cursed energy from her, and she was so physically drained from the stress that it caused her to reach a limit of 1 bullet a day. And even just 1 bullet caused her to get extremely tired and for her nose to bleed and for her body to be very stressed. And when Mai created the Soul Liberation Blade, that feat required her entire life and remaining cursed energy in exchange for the construction of that tool. So you can imagine this curse technique isn't something that's very practical for most users. I honestly think someone like a 6 Eyes user would benefit the most or be the most viable option for this ability to work. However, Yorozu actually used this curse technique and honed it, even considering its drawbacks. The chapter reveals her cursed energy levels, or her reserves, were on par with the fiercest of fighters in the Heian period. And that's insane considering how strong she actually is. But her actual cursed energy output and her own volume burns way too fast, and she was often put in a tight spot because of that cursed energy drawback. In Yorozu's efforts to solve this problem, Yorozu studied insects like an entomologist and found that the way insects use energy is incredibly efficient. So she was inspired by the functions and designs of these insects so much that Yorozu adapted her technique to mimic this insectoid-like form and learned to harness that power and efficiency of that insectoid-like design via the application of this hardened skin armor. She mimicked how insects like wasps can fly incredible distances a day, like how a butterfly can cross the sea, and many other insects can lift hundreds of times their own body weight despite their own size, physique, and proportion. This is actually the most efficient use and the pinnacle of the construction curse technique for mid-range fights. In her heyday, Yorozu proved her might, defeating a sorcerer squad called the 5 Void Generals, 5 of the best warriors serving under a single lord, and she took their position serving under the Fujiwara clan. This was a squad of equal strength to even Uro's Star, Suns, and Moon squadron. That is the crazy part, because how the Fujiwara was so powerful, they had Uro and Yorozu under their subjugation. If you read just a little bit on the Fujiwara clan, they were extremely influential in Japan's hierarchy and political affairs with the emperor. So if they had sorcerers like Yorozu and Uro on a leash, you better believe they had both the sorcerer power and the cunning guile to dominate Japan. But Yorozu's power is insane. Of course, such a crazy character has such monstrous strength, and you really cannot deny her power. In her bug armor, she quite frankly blitzed Sukuna. She is right there in front of the King of Curses, and the very first thing she did was punch him square in the jaw, knock him back, rush behind him, and kick him through the stands. And the crazy part is she's drawing blood and damaging him, and Sukuna is reacting to her. Now, I don't think I need to tell you, brothers, but in just a few panels, Yorozu is already getting more of a reaction out of Sukuna than even Mahoraga did, but that's in terms of actually damaging and hitting Sukuna, because she hits him hard enough to draw blood, which is one of 2 times 15 Finger Sukuna was hurt like this. And the other time Sukuna was badly hurt by Angel's Radiance. It's just that these Heian Age fighters are really something else. In fact, Sukuna decided to heal his injuries with Reverse Curse technique using a new Shikigami. So she really showed off this chapter and made Sukuna get just a little bit more serious this time. While in Yorozu's armor, she can also still manipulate these liquid metal constructed attacks, and her ability to use this construction in this way is very efficient and very practical as long as she feeds her metal this cursed energy. She is easily one of the top strongest fighters in the series, but actually in the latter portion of the chapter shifts heavily in favor of Sukuna. Ryomen Sukuna's use of 10 Shadows is amazing. He may be the best user in history, but I think most of us already expected him to be really good at this technique. A lot of us may even have hoped to have seen Mahoraga this chapter. However, instead, Sukuna manifests the Dharma Chakra wheel itself, which represents complete cycle and harmony. He wears it almost like a halo, so it's pretty insane that instead of summoning Mahoraga, he merely extracted its adaptation ability. I don't know if he actually tamed it, but I think it's made super clear in this chapter how strong Sukuna actually is. I think Sukuna only got hit like 2 times, but if he is granted the wheel's ability, Sukuna is haxed beyond belief. It's actually overkill how powerful Sukuna is at this point with the 10 Shadows ability. After his skirmish with Yorozu, he was forced back and trapped behind Yorozu's liquid metal, but he took this opportunity to show off some of the new Shikigami and his buffs. While trapped behind Yorozu's curse technique, Sukuna summons the Madoka Deer, with the innate ability to heal with reverse curse technique with the touch of its nose. It also has the power to neutralize and erase the cursed energy from a curse technique as it cancelled Yorozu's metal. That is a very handy ability, especially given Sukuna doesn't actually have to expend a lot of his own cursed energy for reverse curse and instead just uses the deer. Not to mention, it's another ability to cancel curse techniques to some extent. I'm not sure if it's actually able to bypass barriers and seals like Angel's curse technique can though. And right after this, Sukuna summons a bull Shikigami translated as Kangyu or piercing bull, and this thing absolutely slams in terms of attack power, speed, and durability. The chapter reveals with Shikigami like the demon dogs, Sukuna intentionally kept their form unstable. This shadow-like form has more range and further protects the Shikigami from destruction. A trade-off though is that the Shikigami cannot move independently and their own attack power plummets. However, Sukuna compensates this by using his own immense cursed energy and further reinforcing them and imbuing his cursed energy and output in those demon dogs. This is why divine dogs look so half manifested like a shadow. On the other hand, Shikigami like the deer, the bull, and even the elephant, as we'll see, are complete manifestations and operate normally and independently. The bull especially gives Yorozu a very hard time. Yorozu's the one who literally blitzed and punched Sukuna right away in 2 instances, but this bull rams her hard, tanks her punch, and proceeded to blitz her again, cracking Yorozu's armor. That is some high level power. And the bull only moves in a straight line, and the farther it travels, the harder it hits. And from what we see, it is also extremely fast. Sukuna then uses a massive wave of rabbit escape as a smokescreen, and he jumps in the air, even just kicking up in the air like some Rokushiki skywalk thing. But that's actually really practical because above the stadium, he drops a building size max elephant to plummet down on Yorozu. This impact really shows how powerful 10 Shadows is with a true Jujutsu sorcerer. So from that last attack, Yorozu actually managed to survive that massive impact, but most of her armor broke off from the crash. You can see some pieces are still actually left on her arms, but at this point, Sukuna really taunts her resolve and mentions she's not even worth using his shrine techniques. Their relationship is so wild. Sukuna is such a troll right now, but I love it. He actually does intend to kill Yorozu, and I think that satisfaction in being strong is what Sukuna loves, and Yorozu cannot believe it. She wants to teach Sukuna a new type of love, and I'll tell you guys, I can't believe it either. Yorozu not only wants to beat Sukuna, but wants to beat him into submission to love her. Now that is bonkers. Sukuna does not care about anything or anyone besides his own pleasure and satisfaction, so it's going to be really interesting to see just what Yorozu does. The conclusion ends in a cliffhanger of Yorozu going to show Sukuna the true shape of love and says she'll construct it, her heart. Now, I don't imagine this is a literal heart, but it may be her most powerful ability yet, sparked by her love for Sukuna. This could be a binding vow, a maximum technique, extension technique, even a domain expansion. I tend to think it actually is a domain expansion because it really would give an opportunity to see a domain clash from Sukuna's Chimera Shadow Garden or whatever he calls it versus Yorozu's ultimate love. It would definitely be interesting. If not a domain expansion, she is creating something powerful enough to try and prove Sukuna wrong, so it's probably going to be something insanely crazy. Sukuna popped off this chapter. It is so cool seeing him in that sleeveless gi white robe, and all of his new and buff Shikigami are so cool and insanely haxed. It's really just too much. But regarding the 10 sacred treasures technique, it depends on how you see it with the number of the Shikigami, like if we've seen all 10, because now we've seen the toad, the elephant, the snake, the Nue bird, the rabbits, the demon dogs, the deer, the bull, and of course Mahoraga. There's one missing if you count demon dog together, because before there was the white and black wolves, and then they combine into totality. But this supplementary info chart basically confirms that the divine dogs are indeed together, and we are missing one Shikigami. It's really crazy how strong Sukuna is, and he technically is handicapping himself by not using his shrine abilities like Dismantle and Cleave, and the fire arrow and everything, and that is complete overkill. He now possesses 2 of these monstrous techniques, and I'm certain that is why Yorozu is doing this well, because Sukuna's not using his shrine. But if she actually does force Sukuna to use shrine and even puts up a decent fight, that'll be something else. She might just clear Yuta and Yuki before the fight even ends, but that is a pretty substantial what if. But she is actually fighting and throwing hands with Sukuna after all, so it wouldn't be too crazy. Yorozu also has been very weird as of late with her choice of words. Last chapter she said she wasn't into a certain type of fetish or kink, but she's been getting slammed pretty bad the last couple of panels, but she still wants to feel Sukuna's shrine cut her and quote unquote feel the love buried in her flesh, as the translation I'm reading says. So yeah, Yorozu is a super freak, but maybe that crazy love could make her even stronger. I understand it's mad random how some psycho yandere would actually be stronger than our favorite top tiers like Maki, Akari, Yuta, Yuki, etc. But she just might be at the moment, considering this insane battle. Especially if Yorozu does have reverse curse technique or pulls out a domain expansion or even a stronger ascended form. She is very physically strong, one of the toughest opponents we've ever seen this arc, and her jujutsu skills are extremely high level considering the actual difficulty in using her construction. You gotta recognize Yorozu peaked her own curse technique ability for fighting, and it's the most efficient she could possibly make it. And now that she's awakened by love, she may actually show something even stronger. That's it for this video. This chapter was just something else. And what's more, there is no break next week, so we could hop straight back into peak. I'll definitely make some more videos and shorts scaling and discussing Yorozu and Sukuna's powers and their own potential, but we'll see soon just how far this battle takes us. Like if Sumiki will truly get killed, or maybe the fight will be interrupted somehow. But remember to share your own thoughts in the comments below, to like and share for more. This has been Enemy Stand User, and I'll see you awesome brothers in the next one.